I can step it up. I can step it up. I can step it up. It up.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Earbuds Podcast.
Yay!
We are back. Yeah, I feel like we need to have the kids yelling, yay!
Yeah.
We are back after somewhat of a hiatus. It's summertime. It's the end of June. We've been all over the place. We've been traveling far and wide. Not really, but we haven't really had a chance to sit down. And now, finally, we can catch up on everything that's been happening over the summer. We're going to talk about every album that Kanye West released. We're going to talk about some beef, the Drake Pusha T stuff, and my best boys went to Bubble in Bonnaroo. I want to have a lot of B's in there. I'm sitting across from my two favorite people to podcast with, Ben, Danzig. What's up, boy?
Hello. It's
And
good to be back.
Matt Griffin, of course.
I'm back.
He's back, like...
Crack.
Is Crack back?
Yeah.
Thank you for filling that in, because I had no idea what I was
breaking
going to
news.
say. Shit, Crack's back. Okay, we're going to catch up, but at the top of the episode, we do have to mention, recently, XXXTENTACION was shot dead in his car. I think it was right outside his house.
It was in the county he's from, at the very least.
Right. So, XXX, I think you guys have more thoughts on this than I do. People are kind of divided because he was kind of a shitty person. He had some shitty things in his past. Yeah, kinda isn't the word to use there. He had a very shitty past, but people did enjoy his music, and I think we enjoyed some of his tracks as well. How do you guys feel? How did you feel when you found out?
Yeah, it was. I've talked to you guys, off the air about this a few times, but it's like an interesting philosophical, debate, because it's the story of someone who is, very, very troubled and has done a lot of wrong in his life, and then, towards the end of his life, it looked like he might have been starting to turn the corner and wanted to do things, that promoted love and positivity, but he died before he had actually ever turned that corner and done really anything positive. So it's interesting. How do you remember him? A lot of people the first reaction was like, oh, thank God he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's such a strong take. It's like, I don't want anyone to die, especially in this case too. It's not like you said, he wasn't doing consistently bad things. It seemed like he was trying to turn the corner, and it just it's such an interesting conversation, because you're gonna step on someone's toes pretty much no matter how you navigate it.
Yeah.
Unless you give kind of a wishy-washy answer, but I'm conflicted because I definitely connected to a lot of his music on a certain level, but I didn't condone listening to it at a high rate, because I was like, I don't really want to fuel this guy's life monetarily and give into that. But at the same time, it was for being a musician and giving me a reaction, it's definitely come on more strongly than other artists that have been coming out, especially young rappers. And that kind of excited me at the time. I was like, this kid seems to have a unique artistic vision. But
that's the thing. He was a controversial person, and what makes his death so controversial is exactly the fact that he did seem like he was turning a new page. If he was still beating and raping women and doing whatever he did at the time of his death, it would make a little bit more sense for people to say, "Oh, thank God he's dead." That day that it was announced at work, this girl at work was like, "You know what? I'm happy he's dead," and I was like, It felt very strange. It felt very strange for someone to say that. As I didn't really care for the guy at all, but
he kind of elicits that kind of reaction, because that's probably how he would react to the exact same situation.
Yeah. It's at the end of the day, I think he should be remembered as an example of everyone can change, or we should give the opportunity to everyone to change to be a better person. but maybe not idolized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough though when you make really good music.
Mhm.
Well, you know, maybe you can be on either side of that argument, but at least he made very powerful music and something that was unique and, you know, somewhat genre shifting, and, you know, he combined different genres, and he was a really good artist. You know, like we were talking about the music video that he released, or that was released post-mortem for the song "Sad," and it's like an incredibly artistic music video. Not to mention the fact that he directed a music video in which he's fighting his previous self in a coffin, which, you know, is just a whole nother layer of like cool /
prophetical and interesting in that sense.
Yeah, just odd.
Yeah, but it's just a very artistic music video, and it kind of just goes to show like where he was at musically was like a pretty advanced place, especially for someone that young.
Yeah.
And you could tell like you could tell since even like 17 when he dropped that there was a lot of potential there, even from artists like Kendrick Lamar, who I actually read an article about as getting like a lot of flack for, you know, condoning and, you know, publicizing X's music, which I found interesting.
He did, right? He shared the Question Mark album at some point?
I don't know if he shared the Question Mark album, but 17, which was his first studio album, Kendrick was like, if you want to listen to some like raw, powerful stuff, this is what you should be listening
That's
to.
the one, yeah.
And so like, I thought it was kind of BS though, because the article I read was from like probably like a month or so ago, and this person's like ragging on him, and I was like, that album dropped so long ago, it's like, it's not fair in my eyes to bring it up now, but there were definitely still things going on, but definitely felt like an old issue.
Yeah, it's interesting because J. Cole was also a big supporter of X's, and when he died, J. Cole was like, man, this got me really fucked up, like, sad to see him go. And it's interesting to see a lot of people in the rap community being really broken up about this, because they probably relate to the shitty things he's done a lot more, at least
the opportunity to be exposed to that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's so easy for us to be like, oh, I'm glad he's dead, but we've never been put in situations where like we're tempted by all of these things and all of these emotions and these intense environments. Like, we have it pretty cushy.
Yeah,
over
you know,
here
it's
in
easy when you grow up in a
Massachusetts.
good environment, and
Yeah, and you don't, and you're not dealing with mental health issues like he was, you know.
Yeah.
I think definitely the most positive thing we can glean from the situation is that we're in a society today that's discussing these topics outright.
Yeah.
We're not just like dancing around it. We're really talking about mental health, what it does to a person, and why people are led to do these bad things that they do. It's not black and white anymore. It's not like Chance is wholesome and this other person is crappy. Everyone has their good side and their bad side, and then that can at least lead people to think, what's my good side, what's my bad side, how do I find the middle ground, and how do I just go on to be a better person?
Yeah.
And I think X is a good example of that, and I hope that's what people learn from his situation, and I hope they don't take away that, oh, he lived fast and die young and whatever the fuck.
Yeah, it was just so eerie too, on one final note, how he had that video too, like when he was in his car driving, and just, it was some sort of
live
love
stream.
and positivity live stream, and just, like, I forget exactly the wording on it. I think you had a
He was like,
good
if
grasp
I
on
die, it was in the car that same exact drive before he died. He was like, if I die now, I just want people to remember me as, you know, I just want people to promote peace and love and positivity, and, you know, regardless of the bad things they say about me, that's just all I wanted to do. And it's like, damn, okay. I mean, you know,
Crazy.
your actions don't really back up your words, but that's cool.
Right.
But, like, he's still acknowledging it and talking about it, though. That's where I feel like is the difference between him and a lot of rappers. He's like, yeah, I've done these things. You know,
Yeah.
like, he's not hiding it from anybody, which is one of those reasons where I, in a weird way, sympathize with him to an extent, very tiny extent. But
There's another person out there who people have been struggling to sympathize with. His name is Kanye West. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah, no.
He's been
Heard
in
of
the
Ye, not
Ye.
Kanye West.
Yeezus.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in the news so much recently. I mean, since 2016. You guys saw him perform live before the performance where he broke down and started yelling about Jay-Z and Khaled and
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
You saw him like right before that.
I believe
Yeah,
so.
pretty much.
And then my brother saw his performance where Kim was in Paris, and
He was there?
My brother was there, yeah, with
Oh
his
my
friends
Lord.
from Brown. They went down to New York or something, and then yeah, he was like, "Sorry, I got a family emergency. I gotta go." That was kind of the beginning of everything, the beginning of the downfall.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember that summer, was it summer of 2016? My brother and I were like, I remember us thinking, we're worried about Kanye. I'm worried about him. We heard that he went to the hospital. We heard that Kim wouldn't let him see the kids. We kept hearing more and more things. And now that he's out on the other side, he went quiet for a little while, no tweets. And then on one of the recent episodes of the podcast, we talked about his tweets, how he was back.
Yeah.
And then he talked about, since then, the TMZ thing happened, the Charlemagne interview happened. He talked about all the drugs he was on in the hospital. How do you guys feel about that whole situation, Matty G?
I thought it was interesting when he talks about the Paris robbery and just kind of the trigger of everything and how he was like, I couldn't be there for her. And I could almost feel him, like, his sense of family and, like, you know, not having his mom in his life anymore. Like, Kim and his kids are his life now. And the fact that he wasn't able to be there for her and just kind of, like, let that situation kind of fall apart. Because I think he was debating on going. And at least he says in the Charlemagne interview, and then he ends up not going. But he wanted to go for that reason, to just, like, be there for her. And it was just upsetting to see.
Actually, now that you said that, I realize he probably was freaking out in that way, too, of, like, I don't want my kids to lose their mother as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that, he probably saw that cycle happening in his head. That must have driven him crazy.
Especially being as egotistical as he probably was drawing some parallels, and he was like, I can't have that happen to my kids, especially at such a young age. And, like, my mom died at, you know, like his mom died at a more appropriate age for him. You know, he's like more of a refined adult, and that still kind of put him in a weird place, obviously.
Ben, how do you feel about the most recent things that we've been seeing from Kanye? The Trump hats, the weird tweets. How does that make you feel?
It's, you know, I'm not, like, all that politically engaged, so it doesn't inflame me by any means, because I think that he says, it's almost less about the actual words that he says for him and more about trying to make people think and the effect of what his actions are. So, like, when he says, and, you know, you can believe me or not believe me, when he says, like, slavery is a choice, I feel like there's no way he believes that, you know, or at least he's trying to draw a metaphor to something else, you know, like, don't let the scenarios of life control you, you know, take control of your own life. And that's kind of what he was trying to say. And he was like, what's the most extreme thing I can think of? Like, slavery. That's, like, the most, you know, anyone has ever been controlled. So, like, I just want people to be free, and, you know, like, this is gonna get the people riled up and thinking. So he just was like, fuck it, I'm saying it. And, you know, so that doesn't, you know, if he actually in his heart of hearts believes that, then that's a fucked up thing to think. But I don't think he is.
I feel like he's almost trying to, like, bridge the gap, you know, because, like, Hollywood and music is just so liberally charged, and I don't think he necessarily feels as conservative as he comes off, but he's definitely kind of coaxing people in to, like, bring the conversation a little more full circle and just being like, hey, like, these people feel a certain way, like, let's talk about it. And in this climate, though, I just don't think that's, you know, something that can actually work. You know, it's so polarizing.
He's just trying to. He's
soliciting a reaction.
Yeah, he's so volatile in such a volatile environment. It's like he's just throwing gas on the fire. You know? But have you heard the? I know Matt and I read that, like, tweet thread about Kanye West conspiracy that like all this stuff is performance art. Have you heard about this?
No, I did not look into that.
It sounds crazy.
I saw the headline.
If you actually read into what's like Kanye's been tweeting and his Instagram posts, there's extremely compelling evidence to suggest that all his, actions in the media and on Twitter are like a very well thought out, plan to kind of, like meet the beast, basically, like quote unquote, Trump America, basically, as a black man, and kind of infiltrate that community and then, get to know them and then like bring people together. Because he was reading like these books that were about, some scholar who like trapped himself in a room with a coyote to try and get to know this like hostile creature, and he's tweeting pictures of this book that's about that experiment, and he's like, and one of his closest friends is always like, wait till you guys figure out what's going on. Like, he's constantly tweeting those things.
And there's a bunch of cryptic emojis that they're like tying back to it. It's it's a must read if you're a Kanye fan, for those of you that have heard of it.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that happening. I did have that thought at one point. Like, what if this is all fake? What if he's trying to gain people's trust on that side to bring them then over to his side, and then one day, maybe not like outright make a fuck Donald Trump song, but maybe just bringing people in, saying some things that they can identify with, and then being like, oh, this Kanye West guy, he's doing something.
Well, so, and even like we were talking about before the podcast, how he even has a few lines on the new albums he's dropped, where he talks about, like black violence in America, like what's the line, like taking domes or like shots to the knees, basically.
What was how does it start?
It's like, everybody want world peace till your niece gets shot in the dome piece, then you go and buy your own piece.
And like,
hoping it'll help you find your own peace.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something I think you see in the album, is he drops these little hints of self-awareness, like in the opening track, where he's like, I could talk about how I have issues, loving myself, but I'd be lying.
Yeah.
Even though that would be more relatable. And you're just like, like, I thought you were totally off your rocker. Like, the fact that you pointed that out and that people would jive with that, commendable. And I think, like, for that reason, it's interesting that that's happening.
So, speaking of Kanye's new albums, we had a great conversation earlier with our friend Andy about Ye and about K.T.S.E Ghosts specifically. Let's cut to a clip of that. Okay, so we're here with our friend Andy. How's it going, Andy?
I'm doing really well. How are you, Yiorgos?
Very, very good. And we're here to talk about the new Kanye West albums, plural, Ye and K.T.S.E Ghosts. What would you like to start with? Let's go with you.
Well, I've been anticipating both these albums for a really long time. I'm one of the bigger Kanye West homers you'll ever meet, and I was getting really anxious with all the stupid stuff that he's been kind of doing in the news, and everyone is kind of shit-talking him and saying they're not going to listen to him based off just like their own personal beliefs, which is fine, but I just like was way too excited about the music to really buy into all that. And so when I first started listening to Ye, the first song, I Thought About Killing You, it was just like, it's more spoken word poetry, and I was driving in my car to work, so excited to listen to this album. I was bummed that it was only 7 songs, and then it starts with a spoken word poetry, and my heart just dropped. I was like, oh no, because I thought this would be like the whole album.
You thought he totally lost it. He doesn't really do spoken word. I feel like he never has.
And I was just like, shit, like this is not what I was hoping it would be. And then like halfway through the song, the beat kind of drops in, and he starts, getting kind of real. I thought it was super duper interesting. Now that I've listened to it a lot, it's honestly one of my favorite songs on the album now, because when you first listen to it, it's just Kanye ranting like, I thought about killing you today, but then when you really start listening to it, you realize it's, I think, a double meaning. One part he's talking about the surgeon who killed his mom accidentally with that plastic surgery, fuck up. And so he's talking about he was so mad, like he thought about killing that dude. And the other part of it is him talking about himself, and like he's looking at himself in the mirror being like, I thought about killing you today. and he was just like, because his mind has been so all over the place, but he was like, but I love myself, but I also have thought about killing myself, which is just like such a mind bender. And then when the beat comes in, he's just like, I called up my cousin, I called up my loved ones, just like, oh my God, then it starts getting really,
it's a slow
really
build up
hype
there.
for sure. And then moving in, Yikes is obviously like the most kind of old school Kanye song on the album, I think. It's a banger, it's a radio hit, really like that. All Mine, the hook is just unreal. That's probably my favorite song on the album in general. I am a huge fan of what Ty Dolla $ign brings to the table. I think his, like harmonies and melodies, and I don't even know if those are the right
He
words,
really
but
shines on every single project that Ye has dropped recently. I know we're not going to talk about the rest of them, but Kanye really brought on Ty Dolla $ign to do some really cool things, and I've just like him more and more the more I hear him.
Yeah, for sure. Moving the rest of the album, I thought was Kanye kind of experimenting, and I really enjoyed kind of what he did, touching upon like drug abuse and depression and everything. Wouldn't Leave is pretty cool, because I think Kanye's a weirdo, but I think at the end of the day he's a really, really good husband and father, which is kind of weird to think about, because he always raps about like fucking other bitches and seeing if he can hide a pic from the paparazzi. Hopefully Kim won't find out and stuff.
Yeah, it's so weird. You can't really even tell from his music that he's married.
Yeah,
I like Wouldn't Leave a lot, and I love Young Thug on the chorus.
Don't you mean Party Next Door?
Yeah,
that's what it's. No, it's not Party Next Door.
It's definitely Young Thug.
I will die on my grave.
What is going on with
producing? Is Party Next Door just producing then on the track? I think that's what it is.
It's so weird, because it's very obviously Young Thug.
So how about the fact that Ghost Town is part 1 to the song on the other album?
Well,
Let's transition to talking about K.T.S.E Ghost too.
I loved that part of it. First of all, I think Kid Cudi was incredible. On like when he was involved with Ye, I'm super happy to see like where he's at. And I loved the end part, with that. I don't know the artist, but
the kid.
Yeah.
And nothing hurts anymore.
Yeah.
I feel kind of.
That is so psychedelic, and I think it's such a good representation of like how both of those guys, Kanye and Kid Cudi, are at mentally right now. Both of them are just like, through the murkiness, and just kind of like they're feeling like impervious right now, which I think is really cool, and it came out really well in that song. And just real quick to wrap it up, Violent Crimes I thought was incredibly deep. I thought it was so cool how like Kanye was rapping about having a daughter and kind of like reevaluating his view on women and everything. And it was like cool, like he's Kanye West, he's like the king of like audacity, and he's so braggadocious, and then he's just talking about like, I don't want you to grow up and be a slut like your mom, kind of, like he's rapping like a dad instead of like Kanye West, which was so bizarre, but I thought really, really cool.
It was interesting to hear his take on that. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way in a couple places, but it's like the fact that he was like, I hope you don't grow up with curves, rather than trying to inspire young boys to not look at women that way. I was like, I'm kind of conflicted on the message, but I see where he was coming from, and it was still very interesting.
I also find it really funny how Kim Kardashian is so plastic surgery'd out. She did not look like what she does now. So it's like, I hope you don't grow up like your mommy. It's like, well, if you don't get plastic surgery, you will not look anything like your mom.
It's also going to be such a tough road to go down too, because she's going to be roped into these reality TV shows probably too. Be under some serious shit.
They already are. They're already on TV. That's crazy. Absolutely.
That'd be so overwhelming.
And then, so do you want to transition to?
I can still feel the love. There's your transition.
Oh yeah.
Boom! What a beginning to this album.
Oh my God, that was. I loved how
really powerful start,
off.
And
And I find it really interesting how that's the only line that Kid Cudi has in that.
It is
whole song.
Yeah.
It's Push's verse at the beginning, which I thought was awesome, and then it's just Kid Cudi just like, I can still feel the love, which I think is just an ode to like how he's changed from being depressed and suicidal, and now like so many people have like built him up and have been so positive. And I think Kanye has done a lot for Kid Cudi in that sense. And now he's like mentally healthy and well and happy. And now he's just like expressing that, just like I can feel the love, you know?
In this song, it's kind of like Kanye's holding out Cudi for us, and he's like, look, he's back, and he's better than you remember, and he's here. But yeah, as you said, we don't get a verse from him in that song. But in the next song, we get some rapping.
Oh, yeah. I thought this whole album was like pretty cool. It almost, to me, it had almost like a southwesterny vibe with some of the guitar riffs, and like you can... there's probably a musical term for this, but when your hand slides on a guitar string, like the chord, and you could hear that like sound.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a term for that.
I think it's just called a slide.
But it's just like that sound was just like really evident to me with like all these kind of like, you could tell it was just like a beaten up acoustic guitar. Someone was just strumming. It was.
Yeah, Cudi Montage has a really good opening with the guitar. That's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Definitely. I thought the whole thing was vintage Kid Cudi, like an ode to kind of Man on the Moon, like Reborn. It almost, the beginning to it, it just sounds like Pursuit of Happiness. You know?
It kind of does, yeah.
And just, I thought they just brought the heat on Fourth Dimension. I thought Kanye dropped better bars on K.T.S.E Ghost than he did on Ye. Really, Reborn's probably my favorite song on that. Just makes me happy. It's such like a positive, spiritual, message.
And it really ties into who these dudes are and who Cudi is specifically. Like if anyone else was singing this, it would still be a good song. But the fact that Cudi is singing it, it adds to the emotion so much because we all know what this guy's been through, or on the surface we know what he's been through. We've seen it. We don't know what he's personally been through. I don't think any of us ever really will. Yeah.
But definitely Cudi Montage was such a good way to end it. Yeah. Just like, it's really cool, I think, how they bring religion, and not even religion, I think the better word is spirituality, into their albums. Like, it's such a juxtaposition of like Yeezus, where Kanye's rapping like, I am a god, to fast forward all these years to Cudi Montage, and they're just like saying like, shine your light on me, like save me please, like lift me up, you know what I mean? Like it's
stay
crazy.
Strong.
Well, and it's kind of weird because you see with Chance too is like the transition into more of like the gospel rap, and even on Ultralight Beam, both of them have that kind of message being sent. It's very cool.
I can definitely see like the music industry pushing people that way, just in general. You have your fun, you're like, oh my god, I'm the shit, and then maybe it gets a little overblown, you get a little overwhelmed, you take a few missteps, and then you're like, okay, I need to, if you're a religious or spiritual person, you're like, I need to really kind of bow down to something bigger than me. Cause
it comes with age, it comes with having kids, it comes with all those things, and the music industry definitely plays a big role. The environment that you find yourself in kind of forces you into that direction. I can definitely see that. What about Free?
Yeah. Oh my god,
I love that song.
I play them like Ghost Town and then Free, like one after the other, and it's such a cool transition because they're their own songs, but they're I just love that when they distort Free, like it's just, you can tell that they were on some mind-bending drugs and just like so happy. That's probably how the thoughts hit them.
Sounds
I feel free, just because they're tripping their balls off. But I loved the overall theme, message, positivity of this album in particular. And I started off liking EA more than K.T.S.E Ghost, and I've totally flipped that. Like, I think K.T.S.E Ghost is one of the better albums I've kind of ever listened to, just because I like the vibe. And I just think both of those guys like put their best work on this one. I was originally really bummed with the 7-track album on both, but now I kind of like it, because you can just like sit there and listen to the whole thing, and it's like a whole story in 21 minutes, So it's kind of cool.
As long as it feels cohesive, the length doesn't really matter. And truth be told, if it's less songs and better songs, like if K.T.S.E Ghost was 15 tracks long, but then there were tracks that were forgettable, that would kind of be a bummer. But there's no forgettable tracks on it right now. Every single one is really gripping, and I think I really think this album is going to stand the test of time. Whereas Ye, maybe not so much.
I agree.
Yeah, I actually heard something interesting about like the 7-track format where Pusha T was being interviewed, and basically his process for making his album was he made all his songs, and he considers himself more of a poet, so he writes the words, and he likes to see them written on a pen and paper, and and then he went to Kanye and he was like, okay, can you give me some beats? And Kanye was like, okay, here's some beats. And then in classic Kanye fashion, he was like, nah, these aren't great, because some of them were produced by other people. He's like, I'm just going to do your whole album. and then he was like, yeah, it's going to be 7 songs. And Pusha T was like, wait, but I wrote all this material. He's like, no, it's going to be 7 songs. We can get the point across in 7 songs. So it's like, that's an interesting way of thinking about an album. Is Kanye he wanted to get his point across. Whatever
there's
his
also
point
something
was.
about 7 being the God number as opposed to 666. 777 is the God number.
I've never heard that.
Do you think that's why he's doing it?
I
He
think-
hasn't spoken out about his justification for doing all these
I
7
think
song
that
albums,
definitely
right?
plays some role. No, he hasn't come out and explained this is why I did it. I think the God number definitely plays some kind of role, but I think it's also because of the cohesiveness thing. I think he really believes that you should get your point across in 7 songs. In 7 songs, which clearly Drake doesn't believe. If you saw
25.
If you saw that album, but
It's crazy.
so yeah, let's forget about that guy for a second.
Something
I don't
interesting was that the Tiana Taylor album, which is like the last one out of this
I
release
love that
cycle,
album.
cycle. It was 8 songs. I don't know why.
Oh, it was?
He
Yeah.
broke. I don't know why he broke the mold just for that album.
There were some changes being made to that album too, so I don't know if it was 7 originally and then they revised something, but it was released on Spotify allegedly, and then they made changes to it. A little like Life of Pablo situation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that I like the 7-track. I just think kind of like how Kanye West has been. He's, attention span. I can't sit down. I looked at the Drake album that just came out and was just like, there are too many songs. I'm not going to sit through and listen to this. It's an hour and a half long album, which time-wise isn't terribly crazy, but an hour and a half compared to 21 minutes, it's just I can sit there and listen to a whole album on my way to work, and it's just so much easier to consume when it's not what song is that again? The songs because there's only 7.
It's very easy to become familiar with them because you listen to the album 3 times, or you get to listen to the album many more times in the kind of same amount of time span.
Yeah, and it's interesting because most albums, even really good albums, you're probably not going to have more than 7 songs that you regularly put into your playlist.
All right, to wrap this up, Andy, what do you think the future of Kanye is? You gave us your thoughts about these. What's next? What's he doing next?
Well, see, that's the $1 million question. He is so bizarre with how he experiments with sound. I think that the music that we get from him next is just going to be more of this kind of creating his own genre of almost I don't even know how to describe it, but it's not, you can't, he's a rapper, but Ye isn't really a rap album. You know what I mean? He's creating his own sound. He's mixing a little bit of rock and roll, a little bit of rap, a little bit of R&B. He's taking elements from all these different styles and just kind of mashing it all together and figuring out what sounds best. And that's what I think Ye was just kind of a mix of everything. So I think we're just going to see more of that. Gone are the days of, and I think we've known that for a long time, gone are the days of Late Registration and College Dropout, where it's just simple beats, clever bars, and now we're kind of entering the age of experimentation.
And I think that's kind of why you see the 7 songs is it allows him to get all of his experimental energy very consolidated into those 7 songs.
I love it. Well, thank you very much for talking some Kanye with us, Andy.
Guys, it's been a pleasure.
And we'll have you back very
always.
soon, I'm sure.
All right.
Peace out, bro.
Later.
Au revoir.
All right, that was a great conversation we had with our friend
Wow.
Andy.
Yeah, he had a lot to say.
He did. And so I think we expounded pretty much on those 2 albums. Is there anything more you guys want to say on those? I mean, I do agree with what he said that Kanye rapped better on K.T.S.E Ghost than he did on Ye. Mm-hmm. And then, Matt, you were saying earlier about how you feel like Ye is more similar to Pablo, where it's just things thrown together.
Yeah, I think it's definitely more of a spontaneous project, and like we talked about, he scrapped the whole project 2 weeks prior, apparently. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think K.T.S.E Ghost has just been in the works for much longer, and definitely had more of a succinct concept. But I think with Kanye's solo albums now, he's much more into like making it as present as he possibly can. Like on Life of Pablo, he was doing the same thing, like throwing tracks together. Whereas with K.T.S.E Ghosts, I think he was like, I really want to send a strong message here. Whereas Pablo and Ye are more like, this is just how my life is right now. Like I don't really have to bring other people or anything into it. This is my project, and I can make it as spontaneous as I want to.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the other Kanye albums. I guess we talked enough about Ye and K.T.S.E Ghosts. Let's talk about Daytona first of all. The first one that came out, Kanye produced, featured here and there. Ty Dolla $ign was on it. I mean, the whole gang is here, right? Mm-hmm. It feels like they were all in a room together. It was like, okay, let's make your album first. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Hey, now that we're all here, let's make his album now. Boom, 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 boom. Maybe except for Nasir. Nasir didn't feel that way, and Teyana Taylor didn't really feel that way. But for the rest of it, it was like Ty Dolla $ign was there for all the fun and games. Yeah. It's like all your favorite characters. It's like a TV show with all your favorite characters. Daytona was hard, bro. It was good. It was really good.
Yeah, it was, classic Pusha T,
Yeah.
He's always got the kind of flow that makes his lyrics, like, very evident. He kind of slows it down and, like, really punches lines in a very specific way. And you got the dirty it's on every track. It's great.
It's funny you say punches, because I think he's one of those rappers that his beats are as hard as his flows, and like I don't think as many rappers have that kind of like strong delivery that he brings every time he raps.
He really is a rapper's rapper. Like it's rap for people that appreciate rap, and sadly you can see that in the streaming numbers. I was just looking at it. Daytona, each song is close to 10 million. Ye is way above that, of course, because it's Kanye West. And K.T.S.E Ghosts also is way above that. But Daytona came out first. Daytona's been around longer, but it's really like it's this niche audience that really loves Pusha T, and they really want to listen to his stuff. He doesn't have that pop appeal that everyone else has.
Because he doesn't really have many hooks. Like his writing style is and I touched on this a little bit earlier, but he said his approach is he likes to write everything down on pen and paper, and he said that some artists get the beat and then they figure out how the song is supposed to bounce and then fill the words in from there. And he said, I'm too literal of a person, I can't do that. So he's a poet who happens to be a rapper, and his songs are so dense with lyrics that it's like you're either taking a scholarly approach to it and you're really sitting down with his music and looking at how the lyrics lay on the page,
which is definitely how he wants you to listen to it.
Yeah, but it does not lend well to this, the way we consume music these days, which is oftentimes in a background setting, in a party setting. We're not analyzing music like we used to.
And that's what I find so funny about the Drake-Pusha beef, because it is really like the two worlds. You have like the old hip-hop heads, they keep it strong lyrically, and that's what's important. Whereas Drake is definitely like the epitome of a rapper that 40 comes in with the beat and he's like, ooh, I like that. Like, let's run with it. And I'm going to say like some super corny shit about Instagram. And we're just going to run with it.
Yeah. Let's talk about that beef for a second. That happened pretty quickly. It feels like it just happened like day after day we were getting these tracks, which is why a lot of people are assuming that Drake heard the last track on Daytona before Daytona came out. So he got like a cut. People are saying that like someone leaked it to him specifically so that he had a little bit of time to come up with those bars. So for those who don't know, the last track on Daytona, this is Drake kind of outright, just like the classic stuff we've heard before. You don't write your own stuff. Talked about Quentin Miller. Infrared is the title of the track. And then a couple days later, Drake comes out with Duppy Freestyle, which was a pretty clever response in my opinion. How'd you feel about it?
It was good. Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
Because Drake's basically talking about, it's kind of the argument that puts every other argument to rest. It's like, dude, I'm like way bigger than you.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it. And he was like, how dare Kanye refuses to work with me or something like that. And
He did take shots at Kanye, which was interesting. I don't know if someone said that was kind of weak. I think Jinx said it on a Genius episode or whatever they were doing. They had this like interview with a few people, and Jinx had some really great opinions on this beef. One thing that he said was, it's kind of weak if I attack you and then you coming back to me punch my friend.
Sucker punch the other guy.
That's kind of weak on your part. It's like, I came at you, but you don't have enough to say about me, so you're gonna attack my friend. However, Pusha did that too. Pusha talked about his fucking producers later. Well, this is the thing. Pusha, and I saw in one of his interviews, he said, after Drake talked about my fiance, all barriers had fallen.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, after that, I took that as free reign to talk about everything, and clearly he did, because on his response, he talks about Drake's son. It's the first time we ever hear about this, or maybe you guys had heard rumors. I hadn't heard any rumors.
I didn't know anything about that.
And then Drake talked about it in his new album, which came out a couple days ago, but I feel like Pusha T just took that announcement from Drake. He announced it to the world. And
made it a really shameful thing.
Shameful. It wasn't very malicious. Well, it kind of was malicious, but it was more so like, get your shit together, man. Like, let this kid come home. He was kind of being on the kid's side about it. You know what I mean? If he was dissing the kid, that would be weird. Like, fuck your kid. But
that definitely felt like, oh shit, okay. Well, first they were rapping about relatively inconsequential things. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, okay, you don't actually sell drugs, and he's like, okay, well, you don't write your own lines, and it's like, man, you got a fucking kid, okay? Like, this is real life, okay? And you're not being a good person to your kid.
And he talked about his parents too. He was like, in again, I think in that interview I saw, he said, someone told me. So Pusha T says, someone told me, look into what makes Drake tick. Like, what is that driving factor? And it was his relationship with his parents. His dad was never there. Mm-hmm. His mom was being weird to him. But now, years later, he parades his dad around in his music videos and everything, and his mom's nowhere to be seen. Mm. And Pusha T says that in the song. So he not only hits on Drake's son, but Drake's parents, and then all of Drake's friends. He hits on 40... 40 looking like he's 80. Tick, tick, tick. That man is 666. That was malicious. Mm-hmm. That was just took a bite out of the guy. That was vicious.
Yeah. And like people are like, oh, that's so fucked up. And it's like, yeah, but like, I don't know. It gets to a certain point where like you got to make rap like fun for people. And I know that's kind of a horrible thing to say in a sense, but it's like, if you want to start a beef, and I think that's how Push kind of saw it. Like once they mentioned his fiance and all bets were off, it's like, I'm going to go in on this guy because no one does diss rap, and I think I can do it better, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, and as horrible as that was, I was like, this is, like, the best diss track I've ever heard. Like, in the amount of time I've been a rap fan, I thought it was, like, unbelievable. And, like, the icing on the cake was, like, Drake in blackface, and I know that wasn't, like, the reason that photo was taken, but it was, like, oh, my God. Like, he was literally, it was just, like, putting up a billboard being like, look at all the bad things Drake's done. Like, here, like, if this doesn't make you click on it, I don't know what's going to. Like,
yeah, I totally forgot about that. Oh, my God.
Unreal.
Not a good look.
Also thinking, back to what we were saying about Pusha T's lyrics being a lot more dense. Pusha T's style is definitely favored in a rap beef. Because when it comes to beef rap, people love to analyze that stuff, and people will actually listen to every single line because they're like, I want to hear everything that he dissed him about. So Pusha T is, technically more skilled.
And you don't need a hook.
Mm-hmm. You don't need a hook. And so his style is definitely favored in that type of setting.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, is like, in that sense, I felt like Drake was fighting up a weight class, even though he's the better fighter overall. You know, it was just kind of weird.
Yeah, that is. His response was good, but at the end of the day, he got wrecked, and so the whole beef ended with Drake's producer stepped in and he was like, just don't go down to his level. Oh, he said, if we fight with the pigs, we become the meal, or something like that. Like, don't swoop down to his level. Of course, I think you said in our group chat, I remember you saying that Pusha T was working with the person who Drake copied his look.
Album work for Scary Hours. When he dropped those God's Plan and the other project.
I mean, Pusha T said it's going to be a surgical summer. We're just getting started. Like, he said these things, and I'm really bummed that we're not going to get to see the rest of it, because on Drake's album, he didn't really diss Pusha T much.
I think he
all.
just gave some closure to the comments about his son. That seemed to be the only thing. And I think, and that was a smart move on Drake's part, because I think that he knew that was a losing battle. He has way more to lose if, like, you know, but that's what's so intriguing, is like, were there more things that Pusha knew? And like, because that was already like a very, I thought, like, at the core of the apple, you know? But like, how far on the outside were we actually?
It'd be cool to see Pusha just like do like a victory rap. Be like, I won!
and here's all the shit that I would have said. Like, you think he'd put that in there too?
Oh my God.
Yeah, watching the whole beef go down was kind of like, you guys know God of War, the video game. You know those cutscenes where he's just destroying these colossal creatures and he's just jumping all around and stabbing them all over the place? That's kind of what this whole battle felt like. Because Pusha T, numbers-wise, is like tiny compared to Drake, the Goliath. But he was just slicing him left and right, and Drake was just like, trying to punch back, but it was too slow.
But you know what's like so ridiculous is the fact that if you're not a big hip hop fan, like, that went totally over your head. Totally.
Yeah, probably,
like, we're all over it because we love listening to rap and we love Pusha T, but like, if you ask like someone on the street that might say they like rap, they probably don't know who Pusha T is, and B, it's just like, you know, I don't really care. Like, Drake's Drake.
Yeah.
All of this stuff is so specific too. It's like you really need a lot of context to fill yourself in.
I think Drake realized that too. The fact that if Drake responded a second time, then more and more and more people would start to realize what's going on. And
that's a really good point.
it would be in the news, it would be, you know what I mean? It would be everywhere. And Drake realizes that. Actually, I just remembered the invoice thing was really funny.
That was great.
Where they sent an invoice to Good Music for the restoration of a career. And the numbers, that was really funny. And I saw that on Instagram before I listened to Duppy Freestyle. That was funny. But I think Drake made the right move.
Yeah.
I'm sad he did, because I would want to see that guy crash and burn.
I don't imagine just watching him crumble. Like, if Pusha just like pushed him to that point.
What a tragic story.
Drake would make some great like music, I feel like, if Pusha just sent him crumbling.
That's a good point. Yeah. Whereas now it's just like the glossed over. We're gonna talk about that album later. I'm not gonna keep going on that.
I kind of just imagine Drake's homies like in a control room, like constantly analyzing new albums, being like diss alert, and they're like, Drake's on vacation. He's like, he gets a text on his phone. He's like, fuck, like the diss track dropped.
He climbs out of all the models in his bed.
He's like, shit, I gotta write something like really fucking quick, and he's got like a team of like 10 interns, and like, I wrote this bar.
Well, it's like that SpongeBob scene when he's in his brain. It's just a bunch of little like Drakes running around, and there's like fires everywhere, and they're like screaming.
That is exactly what it is.
He's like, I haven't written a legitimate bar in years. Like, what am I gonna do?
Just write some hits, man. Just write some hits and get that money and forget about everything else, which is what he did. But we'll talk about that later. How about Nasir and Teyana Taylor's album K.T.S.E? Let's quickly talk about those before we move on from Kanye West's albums and head on out of here. So, Nasir, another rapper's rapper, another, very deep guy. I wasn't blown away by this album. I wanted to be, but
I think the big thing for me is I watched a review on it, so I'm kind of copping some of Fantano's input here, but he was saying that, like, especially on the first track sounds great, but it's like I think a lot of Kanye's production overpowers Nas as a rapper, and I think it just compromises a lot of the subject matter. Like, this isn't really a medium that you see Nas coming in on these like super heavy beats, whereas Push is used to coming in on beats like that.
Yeah.
You know, Nas is much more of like a jazz oriented and like more along those lines of rap.
Yeah, for me, I don't really agree with that. The only track that did that for me was Cops Shot the Kid, because I couldn't.
Well, that's what I think.
I couldn't focus on what he was saying because it was like cop shot the kid, cop shot the kid, cop shot. I was like, please stop. I want to listen to Nas. I want to listen to what he's saying, but I can't. To me, like what's that Khaled song? Nas album Done. That was a hard beat. That was a really hard beat, and Nas murdered it. But it was, I guess the beat was like low key enough to let you focus on what Nas was saying, and his vocals really came through with the mix. I also feel like the big thing for me on this album was it felt like he was just saying really deep shit just to sound deep. Like especially on that
Jaden Smith problem.
Yeah, especially on that first song.
Yeah, he's like
the
president, creator of Fox News was black, which
also
apparently isn't true.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Oh no.
Dude.
He
That's
just kept
disappointing.
listing things.
Yeah.
It was like, let's go down my black conspiracy theory bullet point list.
And so that's where I think the 7-song album hurts him, is because, you know, maybe he had more thoughts. And I feel like he's the type of guy that would put together a slightly longer project with a little more of, like, well-curated ideas.
Yeah, I just don't understand why he went with Kanye West. To me, when I heard that Kanye West was doing this, I'm like, this is great. That's where Kanye shines. Production, let's do it. And then I heard that one of them was Nas, and I was like, what? Also, back when Khaled dropped that album, he's like, my album done, wait and see. Was it, though? Because you took 2 more years, and now you're dropping this? This is what you had working on since way back then? I feel like Nas has something else up his sleeve that he hasn't dropped. It's confusing to me. This whole thing is confusing.
I'm wondering why he scrapped it, because the only thing in the tabloids that I had seen is that him and I don't know if it was his wife or his fiance, had broken up, and I feel like he's stayed out of the news for the most part otherwise.
Yeah.
So, like, I can't imagine that totally derailed the album, but it could have.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I feel like I don't know, he's old enough now where he's not really that focused on rap right now, and, you know, I could be extrapolating from basically nothing, but he's released so many albums over time, and he's had really good success over the years, so I don't think he's exactly hungry to make more music, you know? I think Kanye approached him and was like, hey, like, you're a great rapper, let's do this. And Nas was like, fine. I've got my bullet point of black conspiracy theory lists that I just finished up. Did you know that the creator of Fox News was black? And Kanye was like, no, let's make a song.
Did you know slavery was a choice? Yeah. Just like,
and Nas was like, wait a minute.
Fireworks going off.
It's like, holy shit, man.
That must have been a weird conversation. I can't imagine the two of them having a conversation in a room. Yeah, confusing. I don't know. I'd like Nas to have a 444 experience later on in his career.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
wait a few more years. Go to your old producers. Go to whoever was producing your old shit. Find some like fucking DJ Premier or Dre kind of beats. And I think that could be amazing. How about that Teyana Taylor album though?
That I like quite a bit better.
The dancing girl from what was that?
Fade.
From Fade. That's
Amanda
how I knew
Shepherd's
her.
wife.
I didn't know she was a singer until this was released.
Me neither.
She sounds kind of like SZA.
She does. That's exactly what I was about to say. I was about to say that this album, K.T.S.E, I believe.
Yep.
Yes.
It's like keep the same energy.
Oh, that's what it stands for. I didn't know that. So it kind of sounds to me like a discount Control, because she sounds great, but then when you kind of try to dissect it and get some meaning out of it, you don't get a lot. You get a lot of raunchy sexiness for sure.
But the sexiness,
it's there.
It's sexy.
It's
top
really there.
tier stuff.
3-way with
Yes,
our
dude.
boy Ty Dolla $ign.
Dude, his his verse is like very explicit. It's like I'm hitting her from the back and the other one's sitting on my face.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, man.
I was listening to it. I was like, I'm very happy I'm wearing earbuds for this.
I was at work and I'm like looking around. Like, jeez.
It makes you feel dirty. But that's the mark of a good song to me. Like, if you're gonna go raunchy, go for it. They really
did it very well.
They went all out. I mean, even the cover art's pretty raunchy too. She's just laying there in her wearing almost nothing. It was good. It was enjoyable.
The last song was very raunchy too.
It's
right, WTP.
An interesting comparison to SZA though, because SZA is definitely a little more innocent, still very much in a love theme.
Yeah.
But this just like really gets into it. You know,
SZA is way more emotional. Like when she talks about sexy things, she's like, "Lie to me and say my booty is getting bigger, even if it ain't."
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, she's way more emotional and she's way more deep, I think, honestly, as a person. Like, she thinks about more, why do we love? Like, why do you want to do this to me when, you know, you're in a different situation? She talks about the whole concept of it and a little bit the physical part. Teyana's just way more physical, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyable album, for sure. Eight songs, as you mentioned earlier, Ben. I hadn't noticed. Why do we think that Kanye broke that God number for Teyana?
I have no idea. I can't even speculate. I mean, maybe she's a little less directly related with good music, so he was like, you know, you're not like part of the core crew, so you can kind of
side character. She's also kind of starting out her career. I think she has like one other album, so maybe Kanye was like, okay, you can get another song, like, you know, get more chances for people to see you. She has one other album called what is this, 7 VII? That's 7, right? Roman numerals.
Yes.
Yeah. But she has, like, on her previous album, she has a Chris Brown feature, Pusha T, Yo Gotti, Fabulous. So
she's got connections.
She's in there. Yeah, she's in the industry for sure. Interesting. I'm interested to see where she goes from here for sure.
It was.
She could be great featured on other rapper songs for sure.
It was a very nice surprise. I mean, she's got great vocals, you know, and that can carry a career, you know, pretty far.
Yeah, even if the substance isn't really there, great vocals can do a lot for you.
Yeah.
Moving on from this, I want to hear about Bonnaroo. You guys went to Bonnaroo, and it was amazing, and I want to hear all about it. Go.
Yeah, so Bonnaroo. Just to sum it up for people who have never been to a festival before, so this is a 4-day festival just outside Nashville, Tennessee. You're camping out for 4 days. It gets pretty grimy, you know.
It's an understatement.
Yeah, you don't shower for 4 days, but that's kind of the fun of it. You know, you make friends with your neighbors. You know, you party late into the night. You wake up early in the morning, cook some breakfast, have some fun. It's a great experience. But you know, the whole reason you're there is to see some amazing music, and it's one of the biggest festivals in the U.S. So they attract a lot of big names. Some of the headliners were Eminem, The Killers, Muse. But yeah, out of all the artists, I guess we can switch off for what our favorite 3 artists were. Mm-hmm. One of them for me was, and we agreed on the top 3. So one of the favorites for me was Anderson .Paak. Had never seen him live before.
I also didn't know his name was pronounced Pac and not Pac.
Oh yeah,
right. I didn't know that, but anyway, continue.
Yeah, I switch back and forth on that. I probably say it both ways all the time.
In an interview, when he was asked, he said it doesn't matter how you pronounce it as long as you remember to put the period in there. He really likes that period.
Huh. Why is that?
In a song of his, he said, "And don't forget that dot, you paid for it." I don't exactly know what the significance is. I need to do a little bit of research on it, but it's something important to him.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he hasn't said. I think he's been asked it a couple times, but he dances around the answer. Great performer, though. Amazing performer.
He was wonderful. You know, I didn't know that he actually plays his own drums. And, he came with the free nationals, which it always makes it that much better when an artist is with a band for a while, like Chance with the Social Experiment. It really enhances his live performances. Same with Anderson .Paak and the Free Nationals. He did a great job of sometimes playing the drums, sometimes he was the hype man, he was bouncing around, he was slow when he needed to be. He had that mid-song banter that was really genuine. He's like, oh my god, I'm so happy to be here, and he sounded really good live. I mean, and his songs are really fun to belt out.
Did he play Lightweight for you guys?
I think so.
Because on his album, this is something that I've probably never seen before. On his album, Lightweight is very low key and almost really forgettable. I kind of skip over it whenever I'm listening through that album. But live, he turned it into an EDM banger.
Oh, definitely did do that.
It was so. I saw him at the spring concert at Brown, and he turned it into this. There's clips of it online. You can see how he does it. It has this amazing bounce, and it has this really big, ethereal beat that kind of drops, and he just makes he does the he gets the crowd to jump up and down, and you're jumping up and down. And you're like, wait a minute, this is Lightweight. This is that boring ass song from the album. Somehow he turned one of his most boring songs into one of the most hype tracks from his live show, which was crazy. Did he play Bubblin'?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
was
love that song. That
Such a great
song's so
song.
much fun. Did you have any parting thoughts about the Pac-Man?
I mean, the visuals were great. They were all very Malibu-esque and all very much based off the album cover, for those of you that don't know. So I very much enjoyed that part of it too. It was pretty much everything at the show was on point. His performance, the drumming was great. He had a great drum solo at the end, and you could just tell he was giving the last bit of what he had, just going absolutely in. And talking to my friends that are drummers, drumming is an exhausting thing to be doing, and putting all that energy in while singing, while dancing, he looked spent by the end.
Yeah.
And he's 30-something years old. He's not a young guy. It's crazy how he does it.
Also, a funny side note was someone actually was proposed to during the show, and he had a Yes Lord, which is the name of one of his albums, a Yes Lord poster with a ring on it, and in the middle of the show, in between songs, he was like, oh my god, did you propose? And the guy's nodding, he's like, she said yes, and he gave him the thumbs up, and he was like, that's fucking awesome, yes Lord, and it was just perfect.
That's amazing.
Absolutely perfect.
His fans really, really love him, and he knows that. He's got a great sense of humor. Love the guy. Can't wait for the new album.
Yeah.
All right, who is one of your favorites, Matt?
Dude, Eminem was surreal. Surreal to see.
That's good to hear.
It wasn't, I don't think it was necessarily the performance he put on that made it great. It was just that it was a culmination of all of, as an artist, I think I've listened to him the most across all of his projects. So it was very nice and full circle for me to come back and hear all of his classics. And he was playing stuff that I didn't expect, off the Eminem show, White America, and which was very appropriate for the time too. There were just a few other ones off Curtain Call, which I know is more of his greatest hits, but he played Stan. He had a very wide range. He even played Love the Way You Lie. He brought Skylar Grey on, which was pretty cool.
He
She did a great
Royce
job.
to 5'9" on
Also.
for a song.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they do Bad vs. Evil?
Yeah.
Bad Meets Evil?
Yeah.
Ooh,
It was sick.
Damn.
Yeah, so he definitely catered to the audience well there. I think at times it's tough to command the stage by yourself, especially he's 40 years old. He still has a good amount of energy, but he's not running around the stage.
Not Anderson .Paak energy.
Yeah, exactly. So just a lot of nostalgia, and you could tell everyone else in the crowd had the same kind of thoughts because he was one of the bigger shows and on the What stage, which was the biggest stage that can fit the entire festival. So tens of thousands of people are there watching him. So, and I feel he of all artists definitely has had one of the stronger followings.
Yeah, for me, I think someone who I really appreciate good flow, and Eminem has amazing flow.
He did Rap God too. I don't know if that's where you're going. Yeah.
That wasn't. I just had kind of a more general note that he had him and his hype man, and collectively they rapped every single line to every song, and they switched off so perfectly. It made it really fun. It felt kind of like a Bad Meets Evil thing where they do one few lines here, the other guy picks up, and it, his flow was so on point, exactly how he records it, and he sounded exactly the same. He punched the same exact punch lines that he always does in his songs, and while he wasn't bouncing up and down, he did have the appropriate amount of movement and didn't seem corny, looked like a consummate professional, knew what the fuck he was doing, and it was awesome,
The one caveat was when he'd be like, oh, like, get loud if you've heard that, like, this album or this song or whatever, and like for his throwbacks, people were going nuts, and it was awesome. But then they're like, who's got the new album? And it was so evident that no one was really cheering.
Oh no!
And like, it was just funny. Like, I would look at the people around us, and none of them had any reaction either. And I was just chuckling. I was like,
Yeah.
oh man. And like, and he's acknowledged at past festivals that it's a very different album than what he's done in the past. But that was one sort of downside. But you can't blame him, because I think that's part of it. Like, that's what he's actually touring for. So he played 2 or 3 songs off that, and I was kind of like, meh. But like, I think that was washed away by everything else.
That must be such an odd feeling as an artist for people to like adore most of your body of work, but then the current stuff that you like just worked on and you feel is you in the moment, people are not really feeling. That must be odd. Give me another favorite.
So I'll keep this one somewhat brief, not because this artist was worse than the other two by any means, but because I want to talk about the worst artist for a decent amount of time. Denzel Curry was fantastic. He's, for those who don't know, he's somewhat an up-and-coming rapper. He has 2 albums out there, and his big song is Ultimate. That
I am the one.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, Matt, you described it as like drill rap, and he's just like always going like ultimate, like really fast, like intense, hard-hitting beats.
Great lyricist.
Yeah, we walked over to the show and we were like, it just like took your breath away. Every song the beat would drop, and he was the most high energy out of the 3 that we've mentioned so far. He was bouncing around, and he's got these really cool dreads that he's just like, head banging to, and he does this cool distortion with his voice where he starts to sound like the devil, kind of. He's like, he does it in a cool way. Guttural. Yeah, and he was great, and he's just one of those aggressive rappers who's like, get the fuck up, and you're like, oh my god, I need to mosh.
Yeah, that was the closest I probably came to moshing at that. Like when Ultimate came on, like you could just feel the gravity. Like everyone just started like converging on towards the stage, and then it dropped it. Everyone just like was bouncing super hard, but he was great, and like would highly recommend. I think his last project was from 2016.
Yeah,
called Imperial.
It's really good.
Definitely check that out.
I'm definitely gonna check that out. Yeah, it's got Joey Badass on it. That's interesting.
It's good. It's like a good mix of hype tracks and then also like meaningful stuff. He's real good artist.
Cool. All right. Flip side.
Yes.
Talk about some trash.
Worst artist. This was a clear-cut favorite for the worst of ours. It was Future.
Ooh, I'm not surprised.
He was terrible. We got there. He was on the biggest stage, and we're reasonable Future fans. Like
you can bop to it.
And
you play it at a party.
We were all excited because this was the last show we were going to see because we had to leave early to get back to Massachusetts so we could work the next day, or not the next day, 2 days after that, because we drove 22 hours. But yeah, so we got there and we were all excited, and I'll hand it back off to you.
And we were pretty deep into the crowd. We got a good spot, and he comes on stage, and the beat comes on for the first song he's gonna play, and I was like, oh man, I know this song. This song's a banger.
Here we go.
And he comes out, and it's like wah, wah, wah. It's like it just fell flat. He just, he hit so many he checked off so many boxes for a terrible performance. His dancing was corny as fuck. He kept a lot of his songs he like yells in, but he just kept getting out of breath, and it wasn't like he was strategic about when he would actually rap and when he wouldn't. So he would like, pick up halfway through the line and then get out of breath before the line was over.
Oh,
so
no.
He couldn't actually hit the the parts of the lyric that actually rhyme, and his voice sounded terrible.
There was, I think, for me, the part when King's Dead came on, and I was like, "Oh, this will be hilarious!" Like he's gonna do his la-di-da-di-da.
Oh, right.
Yeah, all that. And so that part comes on, and he just said it normally. Like he didn't really try and distort his voice at all. And I was like, that was at the point in the show where I was like, I've had it. That was probably like halfway through. I was like, you gotta be kidding me!
That's
like
so weird.
And he was also like, every couple songs he'd be like, oh, like people on the left, like make some noise, center make some noise, right? It was so recycled and like sold out.
The cliches.
And I think something we appreciated with all of the artists that we mentioned that were great were that they would have either some connection to like the Nashville community or like the Tennessee music scene and like talk it up and like how much they love Bonnaroo. And he didn't do any of that. Like he just did not connect with the audience at all. And like it was just an utter disappointment. And the visuals, being as close as we were so overwhelming for me. Like it was a lot of like white, like flashing visuals, and I was like, I'm gonna go blind from this. Like, this is not how I want to go blind listening to like a crappy Future concert. Like that's not how I would want to go out.
Oh no!
And he should have had a good show because I knew a lot of the songs that he played. Like I knew a ton of the songs that he played, and he honestly ruined a lot of songs by him that I like. And he would do. The worst part was he would literally play verses from other people, and then just like stand there and go like, hands up, hands up. And I'm like, I am not fucking putting my hands up for you, dude. Okay.
Just a glorified hype man at that point.
Yeah, it's like I've said it before. It's like you go to a concert like that, and it feels like nobody is performing because the artists themselves, they're just like you said, a hype man, and then they're just playing their music in the background. It's like, okay, so you're just an audience member for this too, huh?
Right? Yeah, you're not performing for us. That's weird.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess I'm not very surprised. I mean,
ever since that, I've stopped. At least for a little while, I've stopped listening to Future
because it reminds you of that.
Like, ugh, God.
And stemming off that, Playboy Cardi, who was also there, had a very similar performance. He was on a slightly smaller stage, but his new album, Die Lit, is actually really fun, and I was really looking forward to going to see him. But he had the same kind of like generic crowd hype going on. He kept encouraging people to mosh, but it was like, dude, you're not even being hyped up. Like, maybe if like you were like Denzel Curry and like throwing yourself around, maybe I'd want to, but. They all seem so fake now. And even Playboy Cardi is still pretty young in his career. Like Future's definitely a lot more solidified in his place, so he doesn't feel the need to do that. But like you'd think Playboy Cardi would be more like Lil Uzi Vert and like doing stage dives and just being crazy like some of these young rappers are. But he just didn't do that either.
It's so odd. I think most of them are used to being really chill in the studio and then letting the production guys do all the work for them, put the auto-tune on their vocals, make the beats really nasty, and then in the studio, they don't really need to do much. They're just standing there and being like, Future especially, I can imagine. But like, that's disappointing. I could see Playboy Cardi getting like the hype.
Right?
That's
it's
a
like
disappointment for sure.
As someone who needs more, he hasn't really made it quite yet.
Right. He needs more exposure for sure.
He needs more exposure, and how are you going to get that? Putting on good live shows. You're going to get so many more fans because of that. And the fact that he doesn't realize that or doesn't care, like, just kind of pisses me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like not taking ownership over your craft, and that's such an easy way to get like at those music festivals. Everyone's such an open-minded fan because you don't know a lot of the artists that are going, and you're just like, oh, like I'll just wander over to this tent. And like for those people that probably want to go see Denzel Curry, like I know Ben didn't listen to him a lot, neither did the other two guys we went with, but they were like, I'm definitely gonna listen to his stuff now and like tell people about him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm super into Denzel Curry now because of that amazing performance.
And especially with festivals like this, where people like you guys go a long way, like you put in the effort to get there. When you see that the artist has not put in an effort at all, that's just really a bummer. That's just like, fuck you, dude. I came all the way out here to check out some music, and then you're here just not doing anything. But with Denzel, it's the exact opposite. It's like your efforts were reaffirmed by like, this is what I came to see, to discover some new artists and like,
oh my god,
have some
amazing.
fun.
Ooh.
That's cool.
By the way, side note, we saw, so Bon Iver had 2 sets.
Oh.
And he had this 1 a.m. set, so we missed his actual set because it turns out this set was like a secret, I guess you could kind of call it a secret set. Like, he just had a bunch of artists come on and like they would all collab, and like Francis and the Lights was just at Bonnaroo, he wasn't performing, and he hopped on stage and performed for a bit, which was kind of cool.
Of course.
Yeah, he's good.
But Bon Iver gets up there probably halfway through the set and put on a solo rendition of Lost in the World. Ooh. And it was so good, so powerful. Like, there was just one spotlight down on him for most of the song, and then there were probably like a cycle of like 10 spotlights that were spanning the stage, and they were all on him, but they all started rotating and flashing on him at different points when the song just started really picking up, and it was super powerful, and I think you would have really jived with it.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Damn. Those are the kinds of things that you go to those shows for.
Yeah.
To just get that surprise experience. That's really cool. So overall positive experience from Bonnaroo. Would you recommend it to the people?
Highly.
Yes.
Highly recommend it.
Everyone who truly enjoys music should go.
Beautiful.
And even, not even just that, just like enjoying being around like positive people and good energy. Like, I always come out of those, I feel like, you know, a better person or a happier person.
Mm-hmm.
You always learn
It's
something.
a nice
going
release
forward.
in the summertime.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about like the crowds at music festivals are better than any single concert crowd you will ever experience, because, you know, at the very least, everyone who's there likes music a good amount because they're at a music festival, and they've been there for, you know, multiple days, and they've become comfortable with the environment and with each other, and people aren't afraid to dance all goofy or jump up and down or get sweaty. Like, the crowds are just so much fun, and that makes every show amazing.
That's great. On that note, we're going to end this episode right here.
Whoop whoop.
Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Hit that subscribe button if you want to be notified for new releases. We are back in the game. And
back!
This summer is a pretty crazy summer, has been a pretty crazy summer for music so far. And we're going to be covering everything that's coming out, giving our opinions. Hit the like button. Leave a comment if you want us to talk about something specific that we haven't, and we'll probably get around to it, because you'll be the only commenter. So, there you go. We'll definitely see it. Think about that. I want to thank my boys, Ben Danzig
Yo, yo, yo.
and Maddie G. Thank you.